The alarm screamed through the ship, and Dae-sung grabbed the medical kit as the floor tilted beneath him. Sparks flew from the control panels. The captain shouted orders that nobody could hear over the grinding metal and rushing air. Something had gone wrong in the space between stars, something that pulled them toward a moon nobody had ever mapped. Dae-sung strapped himself into a crash seat and held the medical kit against his chest. He was 28 years old, a combat medic who had seen too much death already. His hands didn't shake anymore when people screamed. The ship hit something and everything went black. When he woke up, his head hurt and blood ran down his face. The ship had broken into pieces across gray sand. Dae-sung climbed out through a torn wall and looked at the sky. It was green, wrong, alien. The air tasted like metal through his helmet's filters. He checked his suit's readings. The atmosphere would kill him in minutes without protection. He found 3 crew members dead in the wreckage. 2 more were missing, probably thrown out during the crash. Dae-sung was alone on an alien moon and his emergency beacon wasn't working. He gathered supplies and started walking. The moon had rocks like broken glass and plants that moved when he got close. Something howled in the distance. After 2 hours of walking, he saw smoke rising over a hill. Dae-sung climbed carefully, his legs shaking from exhaustion and pain. On the other side, he found another crashed ship. This one was beautiful even in pieces. It was made of silver metal and crystal that glowed with soft blue light. He had never seen anything like it. Then he saw the bodies. They weren't human. They were tall and thin with skin that looked like colored glass. Their blood was silver instead of red. These were Valkyrie, the alien race that controlled half the known galaxy. Humans had treaties with them, but the Valkyrie thought humans were primitive and dirty. They barely spoke to human diplomats. Dae-sung moved through the wreckage carefully. Most of the Valkyrie were dead, their crystal skin cracked and leaking silver blood. Then he heard a sound weak and desperate. He ran toward it. A Valkyrie woman was trapped under a fallen beam. She was younger than the others, or at least she looked younger. Her skin was pale blue crystal, and her eyes were like purple stars. She wore clothes that seemed made of light itself. Even dying and covered in silver blood, she was the most beautiful thing Dae-sung had ever seen. "Help," she whispered in perfect English. Her voice sounded like music. Dae-sung set down his kit and examined the beam. It was too heavy to lift alone. He looked at his tools and made a plan. "I'm going to get you out." "Stay still. You are human," she said. Her purple eyes focused on him with surprise and something like disgust. "Leave me. Your kind cannot help. Your kind is dying," Dae-sung said. He didn't have time for Valkyrie pride. He set up a lever using a piece of metal and a rock. "And I'm a medic. I don't leave people to die." He pushed down on the lever with all his strength. The beam lifted just enough. "Crawl out now." She pulled herself free, gasping in pain. Dae-sung let the beam fall and knelt beside her. His scanner showed internal bleeding, broken bones, and something else. Her body was being poisoned by the moon's atmosphere. Even her advanced biology couldn't fight it. "You need medical help," he said. "Where's your emergency beacon?" "Destroyed." She coughed and silver blood came out. "The rebels destroyed everything before we crashed. They wanted no survivors. Who are you?" "Princess Hana of House Velkara." She said it like it should mean something. "Youngest daughter of Emperor Jae-won. Not that it matters now." Dae-sung's hands moved automatically, checking her wounds. A princess, of course. He had saved an alien princess who would probably have him executed for touching her if they survived. His scanner beeped with bad news. "Your body needs something to fight the poison," he said. "A protein compound that your people produce naturally, but the poison is stopping production. Without it, you'll die in an hour." Hana closed her eyes. "Then I die. There's no help here." Dae-sung looked at his scanner again. Then he looked at his own arm. His mind raced through medical data he had memorized years ago. Valkyrie biology was different from human, but there were similarities. The protein compound she needed? Humans had it, in their blood. "Lots of it. I can help you," he said quietly. "You said I need a compound my people produce." "You cannot. Human blood has it." I checked. "Our blood is full of the proteins you need." Hana stared at him. "No, that is impossible. Human biology is primitive. Your blood would poison me. Or save you." Dae-sung was already pulling out transfusion equipment. "Your choice, princess. Die proud or live with my help. You do not understand what you offer. Valkyrie blood is sacred. To mix it with another species," she coughed again, weaker this time. It is forbidden. Your people's pride won't keep you warm when you're dead, Daesung said. He had heard that phrase from his grandmother. Let me help you. Hana looked at the green sky, then at the human who was willing to give his blood to save her. Something changed in her purple eyes. Fear, maybe, or hope. Do it, she whispered. Quickly, before I change my mind. Daesung worked fast. He set up the transfusion equipment with shaking hands. This was insane. He was giving his blood to an alien princess on a dead moon light years from home. If this killed her, 2 empires might go to war. If it saved her, she would probably hate him for it. He didn't care. He was a medic. Saving lives was what he did. The needle went into his arm, then into hers. Red human blood flowed through the tube toward blue crystal skin. Hana tensed, her eyes wide with fear. Daesung watched his blood enter her body. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Hana screamed. Daesung screamed too. Pain exploded through his body like lightning, like fire, like his soul was being torn apart. He felt something inside him reaching out, connecting to something in her. Her memories flashed through his mind. A crystal palace. A cold father. A lonely childhood. The weight of duty crushing her. His memories flooded into her. A small house on Earth, a sister laughing, a sister dying while he tried to save her. The guilt that never left. The need to save everyone because he couldn't save her. The pain grew worse. Daesung couldn't breathe. He felt Hana's heart beating in his own chest. He felt her fear, her pride, her desperate loneliness. She felt his compassion, his stubbornness, his refusal to give up. Something locked into place between them. Something permanent. Then darkness took them both. When Daesung woke up, the sky was darker. Hours had passed. He was lying on the sand next to Hana. The transfusion equipment was empty between them. He felt strange, like part of him was missing and filled with something else at the same time. Hana opened her eyes. They weren't just purple anymore. They had flecks of human brown in them. What did you do to me? She whispered. Daesung tried to speak but stopped. He could feel her. Not just see her or hear her. He could feel her emotions like they were his own. Fear, anger, confusion, and underneath it all a connection that went deeper than blood. What did you do? Hana asked again. She touched her chest, her crystal skin now showing veins of red beneath the blue. I can feel you inside my mind. I can feel you too, Daesung said. His voice shook. What is this? Hana's face went pale. She looked at him with horror. Soul bond. The ancient text spoke of it. When 2 souls mix through blood, they become linked forever. It hasn't happened in 1,000 years. It shouldn't be possible with a human. What does that mean? It means, Hana said slowly, that I am bound to you for life. Our souls are connected. We will feel each other across any distance. We will share thoughts and emotions. She looked at her hands, seeing the red in her blue crystal skin. And it means both our peoples will want us dead for this abomination. Daesung felt her fear through the bond. He felt her pride crumbling. He felt her realize that her life would never be the same. He also felt something else. Something she was trying to hide. Relief. She wasn't alone anymore. Neither was he. On the horizon, something moved. The predators were coming. The creatures came at night. Daesung heard them before he saw them. A clicking sound that made his skin crawl. Through the bond, he felt Hana wake instantly from sleep. Her warrior training kicking in. She felt his fear, and he felt her cold calculation. They had found shelter in a cave, one of the few places on this moon that offered protection from the toxic wind. Daesung had rigged up some lights using power cells from the wreckage. The cave walls reflected the light in strange patterns. 6 of them, Hana whispered. She could see in the dark better than him. Pack hunters. They've been following us since sunset. Daesung gripped the plasma cutter he had taken from his ship. It wasn't a weapon, but it could cut through metal. Maybe it could cut through whatever was out there. His hands shook. He wasn't a soldier. I can feel your fear, Hana said. There was no judgment in her voice, just stating fact. The bond made lying impossible. You've never fought like this before. I'm a medic, not a fighter. Daesung moved closer to the cave entrance, trying to see in the darkness. How about you? Can you fight? Through the bond, he felt her certainty. She was a princess, yes, but all Velkari royalty trained in combat from childhood. She had killed before. The memory flashed through their connection, and Daesung saw through her eyes as she executed a rebel soldier on her first military mission. He felt her satisfaction at a clean kill, He also felt her current weakness. The soul bond had saved her life, but her body was still healing. She could barely stand, let alone fight 6 predators. The clicking grew louder. Dae-sung saw movement in the darkness. Something big, low to the ground with too many legs. His light caught reflective eyes, dozens of them. The creature was the size of a transport vehicle with a mouth that opened in 3 directions. Now would be a good time for a plan, he said. Run, Hana replied. We can't fight them, but there was nowhere to run. The cave only went back 30 feet before hitting solid rock. They were trapped. The creature rushed forward. Dae-sung swung the plasma cutter and it screamed. The sound pierced his ears. Through the bond, he felt Hana's tactical mind racing. She couldn't fight, but she could think. Strategy flooded through their connection, years of military training pouring into his brain. Without knowing how, Dae-sung moved differently. He dodged left as battle instincts that weren't his own guided his body. He slashed the plasma cutter in a pattern Hana showed him through the bond. The creature's leg came off and it fell back. The neck. Hana's voice came through the bond directly into his mind. Cut the neck joint. It's their weak point. How did she know that? The answer came through the bond. She had studied alien biology as part of her royal education. Every world, every species cataloged in her memory. 2 more creatures entered the cave. Dae-sung felt Hana's frustration. She wanted to fight, but her body wouldn't obey, so instead she pushed more knowledge through the bond. Movement patterns, weak points, combat techniques. Dae-sung became a fighter he wasn't trained to be. His body moved with her knowledge, her muscle memory somehow translating through their soul bond. He cut and dodged and struck like someone who had fought their entire life. It was terrifying and exhilarating. Through the bond, Hana experienced his fear transforming into determination, his absolute refusal to let another person die if he could prevent it. That stubborn human trait that made them charge forward even when logic said to retreat. They fought as one mind in 2 bodies. When 3 creatures attacked at once, Dae-sung felt Hana's plan form and executed it perfectly. He lured them together, then used the plasma cutter to bring down a rock from the cave ceiling. The creatures scattered, then silence. Dae-sung stood in the cave entrance, breathing hard, covered in alien blood that steamed in the cold air. 6 creatures lay dead or dying around him. He looked at his hands. They were shaking again. How did I do that? He asked aloud. Hana had crawled to the cave wall, using it for support. Through the bond, he felt her amazement. The soul bond. We synchronized. I gave you my combat knowledge and you used it. This shouldn't be possible. You keep saying things shouldn't be possible, Dae-sung said. He was too tired to care anymore. Everything about this is impossible. He felt her agreement through the bond. Also her anger, not at him, but at the situation. At the universe that had bound her to a human. At her body for being too weak to fight her own battles. At herself for needing help. Stop that, Dae-sung said. I can feel you hating yourself. It's not your fault you got hurt. I can feel your guilt too, Hana replied. About your sister. You carry it like a weight. The bond had no privacy. Every strong emotion, every deep thought, they shared it whether they wanted to or not. Dae-sung felt exposed in a way that terrified him. Her name was Bora, he said quietly. She was 16 when the raiders came to our colony. I was studying medicine, thought I knew enough to help. But I didn't. I couldn't stop the bleeding. She died in my arms. Through the bond, Hana experienced his grief as fresh as the day it happened. She felt his guilt, his belief that he could have done more, should have known more. She felt the moment he decided to dedicate his life to saving others, trying to make up for the one life he couldn't save. That's why you saved me, Hana said. She understood now. Not because of duty or politics. You can't let anyone die if there's a chance to save them. Yes. Hana was quiet for a long time. Through the bond, Dae-sung felt her processing this information. Belkari didn't think like humans. They valued honor and strength above compassion. Showing weakness was shameful. Needing help was failure, but she was learning to feel things through his perspective now. His compassion wasn't weakness to him. It was strength. His willingness to help wasn't failure, it was purpose. I've been alone my entire life, Hana said suddenly, surrounded by people but alone. My father is the emperor. He doesn't have time for his youngest daughter. My brothers and sisters compete for his attention, for power. I learned young that showing emotion was dangerous. That trusting anyone could be used against me. Dae-sung felt her loneliness through the bond. A lifetime of it, crushing and cold. A little girl who learned to hide behind crystal walls, who became as hard as her skin to survive. That sounds terrible, he said honestly. It was necessary. But through the bond, he felt her doubt. For the first time in her life, she was questioning the way she had been raised, because now she could feel what it was like to be human, to be someone who valued connection over power, who would risk everything for a stranger. The bond will grow stronger, Hana said. According to the ancient texts, soul-bonded pairs eventually share everything. Thoughts, memories, skills. We will become more alike as time passes. I will become more human and you will become more Valkyrie. Is that bad? I don't know. And through the bond, Dae-sung felt that she genuinely didn't. Part of her was horrified at losing herself. Part of her was curious what it would be like to not be alone anymore. What I do know is that we cannot let anyone discover this. If my people find out I'm soul-bonded to a human, they will kill you and exile me, if we're lucky. And if we're not lucky, they will study the bond. Take us apart to understand how it works. We would both wish for death long before they granted it. Dae-sung felt sick. Through the bond, Hana felt his horror and found it oddly touching. Humans wore their emotions so openly. We need to signal for rescue, Dae-sung said, and hope that whoever finds us first is friendly. I managed to activate a distress beacon before you woke, Hana admitted. Both our peoples will have received it by now. It's a race to see who arrives first. That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. They spent the next 3 days surviving. The bond made everything easier and harder at the same time. Easier because they could coordinate without speaking, could share skills and knowledge seamlessly. Harder because they couldn't hide anything from each other. Dae-sung learned what it felt like to be Valkyrie royalty. The constant pressure to be perfect. The weight of representing an entire empire. The way Hana had to calculate every word, every action, every relationship for political advantage. It was exhausting. Hana learned what it felt like to be human. The warmth of simple emotions. The freedom of being nobody important. The way Dae-sung had friends who loved him just for being himself, not for what he could do for them. It was wonderful and heartbreaking at the same time. They also learned to fight together. More creatures attacked, and each time they synchronized better. Dae-sung moved with Hana's combat training while she thought with his tactical creativity. They discovered that the bond made them more than the sum of their parts. Together they were formidable. On the 4th day, Hana was strong enough to walk. They salvaged more equipment from the wrecks and set up a better camp. That night, sitting by a small fire, Dae-sung asked the question that had been bothering him. Do you regret it? The bond? Through their connection, he felt her consider the question carefully. Honesty was the only option with the soul bond. Parts of me do, she said. I've lost my freedom. My future was planned. A political marriage to unite 2 houses. A life of duty and honor. Now I'm bound to a human who will complicate everything. She paused. But parts of me don't regret it. For the first time, I'm not alone. I can feel someone else's presence always. It's terrifying and comforting. I don't regret it, Dae-sung said. You're alive. That's what matters. Even though I'm difficult and the Valkyrie soldiers moved like liquid metal, their crystalline armor reflecting the strange green light of the moon, they surrounded Dae-sung and Hana within seconds, weapons pointed but not firing. Their leader stepped forward, tall and imposing, his crystal skin a deep blue that marked him as royalty. Hana, he said, his voice cold. Through the bond, Dae-sung felt Hana's mix of relief and fear. This was her brother. Tae-yang, Hana replied. She stood straighter, hiding her weakness. I survived. So I see. Tae-yang's purple eyes moved to Dae-sung. With human assistance. How unfortunate that you needed such help. The insult was clear. Dae-sung said nothing. Through the bond, he felt Hana's instruction. Stay quiet, don't antagonize him, let me handle this. The human saved my life, Hana said. He will be compensated and returned to his people unharmed. That is my command as a princess of House Velkara. Tae-yang's expression didn't change. Of course, sister. But first you must be examined by our physicians. You look different. Dae-sung's heart sank. Through the bond he felt Hana's panic. Her skin had changed. The red veins of human blood were visible through her crystal blue. Her eyes had flecks of brown. Anyone who looked closely would see she wasn't pure Velkari anymore. The moon's atmosphere affected me, Hana said smoothly. I require rest, nothing more. Nevertheless, examination is required. You are fourth in line to the throne. Your health is not just your concern. Taeyang gestured and soldiers moved forward. Take her to medical. Take the human to holding. Wait, Daesung started. Pain exploded through the bond as Hana and Daesung were pulled in different directions. It felt like a rope tied between their souls was being stretched too far. Daesung gasped, doubling over. Across the boarding platform, Hana fell to her knees. Taeyang caught his sister before she hit the ground. What's wrong, Hana? But Hana couldn't speak. Through the bond, Daesung felt her agony matching his own. The soul bond didn't like separation. They had stayed close for 5 days, and the connection had grown accustomed to proximity. Now it was screaming at them to get closer. The human, Hana managed. Keep him near. The moon's atmosphere created a temporary biological link. Separating us causes pain. It was a lie, but a believable one. Taeyang frowned but gave orders. Daesung was brought to the same medical bay as Hana, though kept on the opposite side behind a force field. The pain lessened but didn't vanish completely. The medical bay was unlike anything Daesung had seen. Crystal walls that seemed alive, lights that adjusted automatically, equipment that looked more like art than technology. A Velkari physician approached Hana, her skin a pale green that marked her as a healer caste. Princess, she said, bowing. I am High Physician Kyungmi. Let me examine you. Daesung watched through the force field as Kyungmi scanned Hana with devices that hummed and glowed. Through the bond, he felt Hana's growing dread. The physician would find the truth. The soul bond wasn't just biological. It had changed them at a genetic level. Kyungmi's eyes widened as she read the results. She looked at Hana, then at Daesung, then back at her scanner as if it must be wrong. Her hands trembled slightly as she dismissed the attending nurses. Everyone out, she said quietly. Now. When they were alone except for Daesung behind the barrier, Kyungmi spoke in a whisper that somehow carried across the room. Soul bond. You formed a soul bond with the human. Yes, Hana said. There was no point denying it. That's impossible. Soul bonds haven't occurred naturally in over 1,000 years. And never with another species. The genetic incompatibility alone should have killed you both. Yet here we are. Kyungmi paced, her medical mind racing. Through the bond, Daesung felt Hana reading the physician's emotions. Shock, curiosity, fear, but not hatred. Not yet, does Taeyang know? Kyungmi asked. No one knows except you. If this becomes public, Princess, you understand what will happen. The council will demand your exile. The human will be executed. Your house will lose honor and standing. Emperor J1 will be forced to disown you to maintain stability. I understand, Hana said quietly. Kyungmi studied the scanner again. The bond is complete and stable. Separating you would require the severance ritual, which hasn't been performed in centuries. Even then, the survival rate. She trailed off, shaking her head. I will not report this, but you must hide it carefully. The changes to your body are obvious to trained eyes. Can you help us? I can treat your injuries and create a cover story. But Princess, the bond will grow stronger. Eventually, hiding it will become impossible. Over the next week aboard the Velkari flagship, Daesung learned what it meant to be a prisoner with special circumstances. He was kept in comfortable quarters but always guarded. Velkari soldiers watched him constantly, their expressions showing clear distaste for his presence. Through the bond, he stayed connected to Hana. She was on the other side of the massive ship, attending meetings with her father and the War Council. Daesung experienced these meetings secondhand through their connection. He felt Hana's exhaustion as she explained the rebel ambush again and again. He felt her fear when Taeyang questioned why she looked different. The moon's atmosphere contained unusual compounds, Hana explained to her father. They affected my crystalline structure. Physician Kyungmi says the changes are permanent but harmless. Emperor Jaewon studied his daughter with eyes that had ruled an empire for 3 centuries. You seem changed in more than appearance. There is something different about you. I faced death, father. It changes everyone. Through the bond, Daesung felt Hana's skill at political deception. She had learned young to hide her true thoughts. But she was also stressed. The meetings discussed her arranged marriage to Prince Minho of House Drevok, a political alliance that would strengthen both families. Daesung felt her revulsion at the idea. Not because of Minho specifically, whom she had never met, but because the soul bond made the idea of marrying anyone else feel wrong, like betraying part of herself. He also felt guilty. His decision to save her had trapped her in this situation. If he had left her to die, she would be dead, but at least she would have died free. Through the bond, Hana sensed his guilt and sent back a complex emotion that mixed anger with gratitude. She didn't want his guilt. She had made the choice to accept his help. They were both trapped now, together. On the 8th day, human ships arrived. Captain Somin led the diplomatic delegation, a stern woman who had negotiated countless treaties between species. She demanded Daesung's immediate release. The Velkari refused. Daesung was a witness to the rebel attack. His testimony was required for the investigation. The fact that he had saved Princess Hana's life earned him comfortable treatment, but not freedom. Tensions escalated. Both fleets moved into defensive positions. War became a real possibility over one human medic. Daesung was brought to a diplomatic chamber where both sides met. It was the first time he had seen Hana in person since boarding the ship. The moment they locked eyes, the bond surged with relief and longing. They both took an unconscious step toward each other before stopping. Tae-yang noticed. His eyes narrowed. The meeting was formal and tense. Captain Somin argued for Daesung's release based on interspecies law. Tae-yang countered with security concerns. They went in circles for hours while Daesung sat silently, feeling Hana's frustration through the bond. Then something happened that changed everything. During the diplomatic dinner that evening, both delegations gathered in the Grand Hall. Daesung was seated at the far end away from the important guests. Hana sat beside her father at the high table. They were 50 meters apart, the most distance they had experienced since forming the bond. It hurt. A constant ache that both tried to ignore. Midway through the dinner, an announcement was made. Emperor Jae-won stood and proclaimed that Princess Hana's wedding to Prince Minho would take place in 2 months. The alliance would strengthen the empire during these dangerous times of rebel attacks. Through the bond, Daesung felt Hana's emotions crash over her like a wave. Rage, despair, trapped. She gripped her cup so hard the crystal cracked. Then their eyes met across the crowded hall. The bond exploded. Hana's crystal skin lit up from within, glowing with light that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. But instead of the pure blue of Velkari royalty, the light was streaked with red. Human red, blood red. Every eye in the hall turned to stare. Tae-yang stood abruptly. Hana, what? But Hana was looking at Daesung, unable to break eye contact. The bond had become visible, responding to their emotional distress. On Daesung's arms, his veins glowed blue through his skin, reflecting Hana's crystalline light. Impossible, someone whispered. Captain Somin looked between them, understanding dawning. Oh no. Tae-yang moved toward his sister, but when he got close, the light intensified. Hana gasped in pain. The bond didn't want anyone between them. Clear a path, Kyungmi's voice rang out. She had been dining with the medical staff. Let them approach each other. Now, the crowd parted. Daesung stood and walked toward Hana. With each step closer, the glowing intensified. By the time they stood face to face, both were surrounded by a swirling mix of blue and red light. Then, as Daesung reached out and took Hana's hand, the light settled. It didn't disappear, but it stabby. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. A Velkari princess soul bonded to a human. Something that shouldn't exist. Couldn't exist according to everything both species believed about themselves. The reaction was immediate and violent. Daesung watched the broadcast from their shared quarters on the Velkari flagship. Angry mobs on Velkari worlds demanding Hana's exile. Human protesters calling him a traitor for bonding with an alien. Politicians on both sides screaming for war or investigation or both. Through the bond, he felt Hana's guilt. She was watching the same broadcasts, seeing how their bond was tearing apart the fragile peace between their peoples. This isn't your fault, Daesung said. Isn't it? I accepted your help. I could have refused and died with honor. And I would have been alone on that moon, probably dead by now. He moved closer to her. Their guards stood outside, but through the windows they could see dozens of soldiers watching. We saved each other. That's not something to regret. Hana's crystalline hand touched his human one. The purple light that now permanently connected them pulsed gently. You're so certain about everything. So human. You say that like it's bad. I don't know if it's bad or good anymore. Through the bond, he felt her confusion. I'm changing, Daesung. Every day I feel more human. Your emotions, your way of thinking, it's becoming part of me. I don't know who I am anymore. You're still Hana, just more. On the third day of their confinement, Emperor Jaewon summoned them. They were escorted through the flagship to the throne room, a vast chamber made entirely of crystal that caught and reflected light in impossible patterns. The emperor sat on a throne that seemed carved from a single piece of starlight. Beside him stood Taeyang, still radiating hostility toward Daesung. Other members of the royal family were present, along with high-ranking officials from both Velkari and human governments. Captain So-min stood with the human delegation, her face carefully neutral. We have reached a decision, Emperor Jaewon said. His voice carried through the chamber without amplification. The soul bond between Princess Hana and the human Daesung presents an unprecedented situation. Our scholars have researched the ancient texts. Our physicians have examined both individuals. The bond is real, complete, and cannot be broken without the severance ritual. Then perform the severance, Taeyang said.
End this disgrace. The severance ritual has a 73% fatality rate when the bond is this strong, said an elderly Velkari woman.
Daesung recognized her from Hana's memories through the bond. Lady Young-hee, Hana's aunt and the Empire's chief historian. It would likely kill them both. Then at least our honor would be intact, Taeyang replied coldly. Silence. Emperor Jaewon's single word carried absolute authority. I have decided to invoke the ancient trial protocols. Princess Hana and the human Daesung will undergo 3 trials to prove the legitimacy of their bond. If they succeed, the bond will be recognized as sacred and must be honored by our laws. If they fail, they will accept exile to the border worlds where no one must acknowledge their existence. And if they refuse the trials? Captain So-min asked. Then he returns to human space and she remains here. The resulting separation will kill them both within a month. The bond does not allow them to be apart for long. Through their connection, Daesung and Hana shared a moment of understanding. They had no real choice. Accept the trials or die. We accept, Hana said. The trials were announced publicly. They would take place over 3 days, broadcast to billions across both empires. Every aspect would be witnessed and judged. That night, Lady Young-hee visited their quarters secretly. Through the bond, Daesung felt Hana's surprise and affection for her aunt. I've been researching, Young-hee said without preamble. She placed a data device on the table between them. The ancient texts contain more information than we teach in modern times. Soul bonds were not rare once. They were common. What happened? Daesung asked. We happened. The Velkari happened. Young-hee activated the device showing images of ruins and old records. 12,000 years ago, my people weren't alone on our homeworld. Another species lived alongside us, humanoid but different. The texts call them the Kael. We formed soul bonds with them regularly. The bonds made both species stronger, smarter, more creative. Then why have I never heard of the Kael? Hana asked. Young-hee's expression turned sad. They went extinct. A plague that only affected them. Within a century, they were gone. The soul-bonded Velkari went mad with grief. Many died. The survivors declared that soul bonds were too dangerous, too painful when they broke. We genetically modified ourselves to suppress the bonding instinct. But it didn't work completely, Daesung said, understanding. The instinct is still there, buried. Exactly. Your blood triggered something ancient in Hana's genetics, something we thought we had erased. Young-hee looked at them both. You need to understand what this means. The Velkari Empire has been declining for thousands of years. We hide it behind our pride and our technology, but we're dying slowly. Fewer children born each generation. Less creativity, less innovation. We've become stagnant. Because we removed the bonds, Hana said softly. Through the bond, Daesung felt her sudden understanding. We removed the part of us that connected to others. We made ourselves alone. Yes. And now you've formed a bond with a human. If this succeeds, if you prove that cross-species bonding is not only possible but beneficial, it could change everything. It could save my people from their slow extinction. Young-hee stood, or it could tear apart both empires. The trials will determine which. The first trial began the next morning in the Grand Arena, a vast space that could hold millions of spectators. Cameras captured everything, broadcasting to both empires. The trial of truth was simple in concept, terrible in execution. Soul-bonded pairs must share their deepest fear with each other and the public through a direct mental connection amplified by ancient technology. No lies, no hiding. Complete vulnerability. Dae-sung stood beside Hana at the center of the arena. Thousands of Velkari watched from the stands. Billions more watched on screens across the galaxy. The pressure was suffocating. "You may begin," the high priest said. He was ancient, his crystal skin nearly white with age. "Let all witness the truth of your souls." The machine activated, and suddenly their bond opened wider than ever before. Dae-sung felt himself falling into Hana's mind and she into his. Not just emotions now, but thoughts, memories, fears. Everything laid bare. He saw through her eyes as a child, standing before her father who barely looked at her. He felt her desperate need for approval, for love, for someone to see her as more than a political tool. He experienced her loneliness at royal gatherings where everyone wanted something from her, but no one wanted to know her, and her deepest fear that she was hollow inside, that there was nothing worthy beneath the royal mask, that anyone who truly knew her would be disappointed. Hana experienced his memories of the raid, his sister's blood on his hands, his frantic attempts to save her while she whispered his name. She felt his guilt, the weight of it crushing him every day, his belief that he was a coward for surviving when she died, and his deepest fear that he would fail again, that everyone he tried to save would die because he wasn't good enough, smart enough, fast enough. The arena was silent as billions witnessed their pain. Two people from different worlds, both convinced they were fundamentally broken, sharing their brokenness with everyone. Then something shifted in the bond. Dae-sung felt Hana's perspective on his fear. She didn't see a coward. She saw someone who cared so much that he carried guilt for things beyond his control. She saw his compassion and dedication, his refusal to give up even when hope was gone. Hana felt Dae-sung's perspective on her fear. He didn't see a hollow shell. He saw someone who had survived crushing pressure with grace, who had maintained kindness despite being raised in a world that valued power over compassion. He saw her strength, her intelligence, her hidden warmth. Through the bond, they each saw themselves reflected in the other's eyes. And the reflection was beautiful. The purple light between them blazed brighter. In the arena, gasps echoed. On screens across the galaxy, people watched as the bonded pair embraced, their combined light creating patterns that moved like living art. "The first trial is past," the high priest declared. "They have shared truth without breaking." The second trial came 2 days later after they had barely recovered. The trial of sacrifice required them to choose between personal desires and each other's survival. The test was cruel by design. They stood in separate chambers connected only by their bond. Dae-sung could see Hana through a transparent wall but couldn't reach her. In each chamber was a control panel with 2 options. "You will each choose," the high priest explained. "Option 1, break the bond and return to your separate lives. The severance will be performed safely using the method revealed in ancient texts. You will survive with your freedom intact. Option 2, keep the bond and accept permanent exile. You will never see your families again. You will be removed from all records forgotten by history." "You must choose simultaneously," the high priest continued. "If one chooses freedom and the other chooses exile, both will receive 3 days. They had 3 days before the severance ritual would either separate them or kill them both. Dae-sung spent the first night lying awake, feeling Hana's fear through the bond. She couldn't sleep either. "We should do it," Dae-sung said into the darkness. "The severance." Through the bond, he felt her shock. "You want to break the bond? I want you to live. You deserve your life, Hana. Being a princess, marrying someone your people approve of, leading your empire. Not being chained to a human who ruined everything for you." Hana sat up in her bed across their shared quarters. The purple light of their bond pulsed in the dark. "You think I want to marry Minho? Someone I've never met who only wants me for political alliance? It's better than dying, is it?" She stood and walked to where he lay. "Through this bond, I've felt real connection for the first time. I've experienced what it's like when someone values me for who I am, not what I represent. You would take that away from me? I would let you live." Hana touched his face, her crystalline hand cool against his skin. "You stupid, selfless human. I don't want to live without this. Without you, we've become one soul in 2 bodies. Cutting that apart would kill me even if my body survived." Through the bond, Dae-sung felt the truth of her words. Also her fear. She was terrified of the severance, but more terrified of a life alone again after experiencing togetherness. Then what do we do? He asked. We refuse. We take exile like we chose in the trial. We find a place where no one knows us and live our lives together. Your father won't allow it. Neither will mine. Then we run. We steal a ship and disappear. Daesung pulled her close and they held each other while their bond sang with unity. It was a beautiful, impossible dream. The next morning, Captain So-min and Envoy Hyunwoo requested a private meeting. The human delegation had been investigating while Daesung and Hana underwent their trials. Now they had information that changed everything. The attack on Princess Hana's ship wasn't random, Captain So-min said. She spread holographic evidence across the table. We found communications between certain Velkari court members and the rebels. The ambush was planned from within the royal court. Hana's shock rippled through the bond. That's impossible. Who would dare? Admiral Gite, Envoy Hyunwoo said, along with 6 other high-ranking officials. They oppose any cooperation between humans and Velkari. Your diplomatic mission was going to establish new trade agreements, cultural exchanges. They saw it as contamination of Velkari purity. And now that you're bonded to a human, So-min continued, you're living proof that our species can unite. They can't allow that. We believe they're behind Prince Taeyang's demand for severance. They're manipulating him to remove you as a threat to their ideology. Daesung felt pieces clicking together through his tactical training. The severance ritual. What if it's not just about separating us? What if they plan to use it as cover for something worse? We think they're planning a coup, Hyunwoo said grimly. Kill Emperor Jae-won during the ceremony. Blame humans, start a war. In the chaos, Gite and his faction would seize power. Do you have proof? Hana asked. Enough to raise suspicions. Not enough to make accusations against an admiral. So-min looked at them both. But you two have something we don't. You're the center of attention right now. Everyone will be watching the severance ceremony. If we can expose the conspiracy publicly, we become bait, Daesung finished. Through the bond, he felt Hana's strategic mind racing. She had been raised in political intrigue. She understood how to play this game. We go through with the severance ceremony as planned, but we prepare a trap. When they make their move, we expose them. It's incredibly dangerous, Hyunwoo warned. If they suspect you know, they'll move against you immediately. We don't have a choice, Hana said. If they succeed, both our peoples go to war. Millions will die. We have to stop them. That night, Lady Young-hee visited again. She brought ancient texts that she had been translating in secret. I found something about the severance ritual, something important. She showed them passages written in an extinct Velkari dialect. The ritual doesn't just separate soul bonds. It was originally designed as a weapon. During the Kale extinction, some bonded pairs went mad with grief and became dangerous. The severance was created to stop them by destroying the bond violently. So it's meant to kill, Daesung said. In its original form, yes. But there's another version. A peaceful separation that takes longer but has a much higher survival rate. The problem is that version requires both parties to genuinely want separation. If either person wants to maintain the bond, even subconsciously, the peaceful version won't work. Hana's hand found Daesung's. Then we're trapped. Neither of us wants separation. Actually, Young-hee said carefully, I think that might save you. The violent version of the ritual requires the bond to be weak or damaged. A strong unified bond like yours might be able to resist it entirely. The ancient texts mention cases where perfectly bonded pairs survived severance attempts because their connection was too powerful to break. Might survive? Daesung asked. The texts aren't clear. No one has attempted it with a bond this strong in recorded history. Hope and fear mixed in their shared emotions. They might survive the severance naturally, or they might die, or they might be separated and wish for death. Tell me about the ceremony itself, Hana said. Every detail, Young-hee explained. The ritual would take place in the Grand Temple of Souls, a sacred space built thousands of years ago. The high priest would use ancient technology to channel energy through the bonded pair. Attempting to sever their connection at the soul level, they would be unconscious during most of it, vulnerable to attack. Perfect opportunity for assassination, Daesung said. Maximum exposure, minimal protection. Over the next 2 days, they planned carefully. Captain So-min coordinated with loyal human ships in orbit. Lady Young-hee identified Velkari guards who were loyal to the Emperor over Admiral Gite. Physician Kyung-mi prepared medical equipment for the worst-case scenarios. And through it all, Dae-sung and Hana spent every moment together. They shared stories from their childhoods, dreams for futures they might never see, fears they had never spoken aloud. Through the bond, they explored each other's minds more deeply than any two people ever had. "I never told you about my mother," Hana said on their final night. "She died when I was young. Illness that even our technology couldn't cure. I barely remember her, but I remember she used to sing to me, the only time I felt truly safe." Through the bond, Dae-sung experienced the memory with her. A crystal woman with a voice like bells, singing ancient lullabies to a small girl who didn't understand yet how cruel the world would be. "She would have liked you," Hana said. "You have the same kind heart." Dae-sung shared his own memories. His sister teaching him to cook, both of them laughing as they burned dinner. His mother working 3 jobs to send him to medical school. The friends who stood by him after his sister died, who never let him drown in guilt. "They would have liked you too," he said. Probably would have been intimidated by the whole princess thing, but they would have seen past it eventually. "Seen the real you." "The real me," Hana repeated. "I'm not sure I knew who that was before the bond. I spent so long being what everyone else needed me to be. And now I'm someone who chose love over duty, who chose connection over honor, who chose a human medic over an empire." She smiled, and through the bond, Dae-sung felt her certainty. "I don't regret it, even though it might kill us." Even then. They fell asleep holding each other, their bond glowing softly in the darkness. Tomorrow would bring either salvation or death. But tonight they were together, and that was enough. The morning of the severance ceremony arrived. Dae-sung and Hana were dressed in traditional robes, his simple and white, hers elaborate and crystal. They were escorted to the grand temple by guards, surrounded by crowds that both cheered and jeered. The temple was ancient, built in a time when Valkyrie still understood the sacred nature of bonds. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above. The floor was covered in intricate patterns that glowed with their own light. In the center was a raised platform where the ritual would take place. Thousands filled the temple. Millions more watched on screens. Emperor Jae-won sat on a throne near the platform, his face showing no emotion. Tae-yang stood beside him, satisfaction clear in his expression. Admiral Gi-tae and his co-conspirators were positioned strategically throughout the crowd. Through the bond, Dae-sung felt Hana identifying threats. She had her brother's military training, and now he had access to it too. They cataloged weapons, positions, potential ambush points. "Ready?" he whispered. "No," she whispered back. "But we do it anyway." They climbed onto the platform. The high priest began the ceremony, chanting in ancient Valkyrie. The patterns on the floor glowed brighter. Energy started flowing through the temple, drawn from some source older than memory. The high priest placed his hands on their heads. "May the ancient ones guide this separation. May both souls find peace and solitude once more." Energy surged into them. Dae-sung screamed. Hana screamed. The bond was being attacked, torn at by forces designed to rip souls apart. Pain beyond any physician Kyungmi refused to stop. Even as the monitor showed flat lines for both Dae-sung and Hana, she kept working. Her hands moved with desperate precision, injecting compounds into their bloodstreams, forcing electrical shocks through their hearts. "They're gone," one of her assistants said quietly. "No." Kyungmi's voice was hard as crystal. "The bond connects them at a quantum level. If I can restart one heart, the bond will force the other to follow." She worked on Dae-sung first. Human biology was simpler in some ways, more resilient. The shock paddles charged. Emperor Jae-won held his daughter's hand, his imperial mask finally cracking to show the grief beneath. Tae-yang stood frozen, staring at his sister's body. Through the chaos of the battle, through all his anger and pride, he had never truly believed she would die. Now he faced the reality of a world without her, and it broke something inside him. Kyungmi applied the paddles to Dae-sung's chest. His body jerked. The monitor stayed flat. She tried again. And again. On the 4th attempt, his heart stuttered. 1 beat, 2, then it caught rhythm. Immediately, Hana gasped. Her heart started beating in sync with his, pulled back to life by a bond that refused to break even for death itself. The purple light reignited between them, weak but present. Kyungmi moved faster than her assistants could follow, stabilizing them both. "Get them to medical, now." As they were rushed away on floating stretchers, the purple light pulsing weakly between them, the temple erupted in noise. Some people celebrated. Others demanded justice. But Emperor Jaewon just watched his daughter go, his hand still warm from holding hers. "Arrest Admiral Gitae and all his co-conspirators," he said quietly. His voice carried absolute authority despite the gentle tone. "The evidence is clear. They will face trial for treason, attempted assassination, and conspiracy to start war between species." Gitae, restrained by guards, spat blood and defiance. "You're destroying our people. Mixing with humans will contaminate everything we are." "No," Lady Young-hee said, stepping forward with her ancient texts. "Isolation is destroying us. We cut ourselves off from bonding after the Kale died, and we've been dying slowly ever since. Princess Hana's bond proves we can connect with other species again. She might be the key to our survival. She's an abomination." Emperor Jaewon's eyes went cold. "She is my daughter, and she just exposed your treason while fighting for her life. Take them away." In the medical bay, Dae-sung and Hana were placed in adjacent chambers filled with healing technology. Kyungmi induced medical comas to let their bodies recover. The forced merger had nearly destroyed them both. Their bond was damaged, flickering like a candle in wind. "Will they survive?" Captain Somin asked. "I don't know," Kyungmi admitted. "The bond is trying to heal itself, but it's using energy they don't have. If I separate them further to reduce the drain, the distance might kill them. If I keep them close, they might burn out trying to maintain the connection. What do they need?" Kyungmi looked at the monitor showing 2 heartbeats that pulsed in perfect synchronization. "Time, rest, and hope that their bond is as strong as they believe it is." Days passed. The galaxy held its breath. News of the conspiracy spread rapidly. Admiral Gitae's trial was swift and public. Evidence was overwhelming. He and 5 others were sentenced to permanent exile in void stations where they could harm no one. But public opinion remained divided. Some saw Dae-sung and Hana as heroes who had exposed traitors and prevented war. Others saw them as symbols of contamination and lost purity. Protests erupted on both Valkyrie and human worlds. In the medical bay, Emperor Jaewon visited his daughter every day. He sat beside her chamber, watching machines breathe for her, and faced truths he had avoided for decades. "I failed you," he said to her unconscious form. "I was so focused on the Empire that I forgot you were my child. I let you grow up lonely, because I thought it would make you strong. But strength without love is just brittleness waiting to break." Taeyang came too, his hatred transformed to guilt. "I demanded the severance. I almost killed you because of my pride. I'm sorry, sister. I'm so sorry." On the human side, Dae-sung's mother arrived from Earth. She was a small woman with gray hair and hands worn from years of hard work. She sat beside her son's chamber and held his hand through the barrier. "My brave, foolish boy," she whispered, "always trying to save everyone. I'm proud of you. Your sister would be proud too." Captain Somin coordinated between both governments while the bonded pair slept. Treaties were drafted. Agreements made. If Dae-sung and Hana survived, their bond would be recognized by both empires. They would serve as ambassadors, proof that unity was possible. If they didn't survive, both sides agreed to honor their sacrifice by maintaining peace. It was a fragile agreement, but it held. 3 weeks passed. Kyungmi reduced the medical sedation slowly, allowing them to begin waking naturally. Their bond had stabilized during the rest, healing itself through the connection they shared. Dae-sung woke first. His eyes opened to see crystal walls and medical equipment. Pain radiated through his body, but it was distant, manageable. Through the bond, he felt Hana's presence nearby, still sleeping but alive. "Welcome back," Kyungmi said. She ran scanners over him, checking vital signs. "You've been unconscious for 22 days. How do you feel?" "Like I died," Dae-sung said. His voice was rough from disuse. "You did, for 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The bond brought you back." She helped him sit up slowly. "Princess Hana should wake within hours. Her body is healing well. The conspiracy? Exposed and dealt with. Admiral Gitae is in exile. You and Princess Hana are heroes to some, threats to others, but most importantly, you're alive." Dae-sung looked through the barrier to where Hana lay in the adjacent chamber. Their bond pulsed between them, purple light dancing in the air. It looked different now, more stable, more permanent, as if dying together had fused them even deeper. "We really did it," he said. "We survived. Barely." Kyungmi's expression was serious. "The severance damaged your bond, It will never break now, but it's also more volatile. Strong emotions will cause physical manifestations, lights, energy fluctuations, even unconscious synchronization. You'll need to learn control. Hana woke that evening. Her purple eyes opened and immediately found Dae-sung through the barrier between their chambers. The bond surged with relief and joy. The lights in medical bay flickered as their emotions manifested physically. Sorry, they said simultaneously, then smiled at the synchronization. Kyung-mi brought them together once they were stable enough to move. The moment they touched, the purple light blazed and then settled into a steady glow around them. How do you feel? Dae-sung asked. Different, Hana said. Through the bond, he felt what she meant. The experience of dying and being pulled back had changed them. They were more unified now. The boundaries between their thoughts even thinner than before. We really are one soul in two bodies now. Is that bad? She considered. No, just different. I can feel you even more clearly than before. Your presence is like breathing, constant and necessary. Over the next 2 weeks, they recovered together. Physical therapy to rebuild strength, mental exercises to control the bond's manifestations, long conversations with both their families. Dae-sung's mother met Hana and cried happy tears. You saved my son's life by refusing to let him die alone. Thank you. He saved mine first, Hana replied. We're even. No, Dae-sung's mother said, smiling. You're family now. That's better than even. Emperor Jae-won spoke with Dae-sung privately. You gave your blood to save my daughter when you had no obligation to help. You protected her with your life. You exposed traitors and prevented war. I owe you a debt I can never fully repay. I don't want payment, Dae-sung said. I just want to be with Hana, that's all I've ever wanted. You have my blessing. And my apology. I should have seen her loneliness, her need for genuine connection. I failed her as a father. You succeeded as a partner. The Emperor's crystal hand rested briefly on Dae-sung's shoulder. Treat her well. She deserves happiness. I will. Tae-yang apologized to both of them, his warrior's pride stripped away by guilt. I let prejudice blind me. I almost killed you both because I couldn't accept that my sister had found something real. I was wrong. You were protecting what you believed in, Hana said gently. I understand that now. Through the bond, I've felt Dae-sung's compassion and it's taught me to forgive. I don't deserve forgiveness. Neither did I deserve a second chance at life, Dae-sung said. But I got one anyway. That's how forgiveness works. A formal ceremony was held to recognize the soul bond as legitimate and sacred. Both human and Valkyrie officials attended. It was broadcast across the galaxy, a statement that unity was possible. Dae-sung and Hana stood before their peoples, hands clasped, purple light flowing between them. They wore formal clothes that blended both cultures, his suit incorporating crystal elements, her dress with fabric panels. Today we recognize not just a bond between two individuals, Emperor Jae-won announced, but a bridge between two peoples. Princess Hana and Dae-sung have proven that our species can connect in ways we thought impossible. They have shown us that isolation makes us weaker, while unity makes us strong. A human representative spoke next. This bond represents hope. Hope that we can overcome our differences. Hope that we can build something. The alien ships held position at the edge of Valkyrie space, neither advancing nor retreating. They were beautiful in a strange way, made of materials that shifted colors like oil on water. Their design suggested organic growth rather than construction, as if the ships had been grown instead of built. Dae-sung stood in the command center beside Hana, both of them still recovering but strong enough to be present. Through the bond, they shared nervous anticipation. These ships had traveled across the galaxy in response to their soul bond. What did that mean? They're requesting permission to approach, the communications officer reported. They specifically asked to meet with the bonded pair. Emperor Jae-won looked at his daughter. This is your decision, Hana. You and Dae-sung are the reason they're here. Through the bond, Dae-sung felt Hana's certainty. They had survived death itself. They could face this. Grant them permission, Hana said. Let them come. The alien ships approached slowly, respectfully. They took up positions around the flagship, close enough to communicate but far enough to show they meant no threat. A request came through for a physical meeting. Just you two, Captain Somin warned. They only want to speak with the bonded pair. I don't like it. We'll be fine, Dae-sung said. Through the bond, he felt Hana's agreement. Whatever they want, they've come a long way for it. We should hear them out. They were transported to the lead alien ship. The interior was unlike anything either species had seen before. Walls that breathed, lights that responded to thoughts. Everything felt alive, conscious. 3 beings waited for them in what might have been a meeting chamber. They were humanoid, but clearly not human or Velkari. Their skin was translucent, showing energy flowing through their bodies like blood. Their eyes held galaxies. The tallest one stepped forward and spoke. The words came directly into Dae-sung and Hana's minds through a form of telepathy. We are the Alara. We felt your bond awaken across the stars. We had to come. We had to know if it was real. Who are you? Hana asked aloud. Through the bond, Dae-sung felt her fascination and caution. We are what remains of the galaxy's bonded peoples, 12 species, all capable of soul bonds driven to the edge of known space by those who feared connection. The Alara's thoughts carried ancient sadness. 10,000 years ago, the galaxy was united through bonds. Different species connecting, sharing knowledge and strength, building something beautiful. What happened? Dae-sung asked. War. Those who couldn't form bonds grew jealous and afraid. They saw our unity as a threat to their individuality. They attacked, killed, drove us away. The bonded peoples scattered to the edges of space. Most species lost the ability to bond over generations. We thought we were the last. Through their shared consciousness, the Alara showed them visions, a galaxy alive with connections, bridges of light spanning between worlds, then darkness, war, genocide, the bonded peoples fleeing or dying, the remaining ones hiding at the galaxy's edge, keeping their gift secret. When we felt your bond signal, the Alara continued, we couldn't believe it. 2 species from the core worlds forming a natural soul bond. It shouldn't be possible. Your people suppressed that ability millennia ago. The Velkari did, Lady Young-hee said. She had insisted on joining them, her historian's knowledge crucial. We bonded with another species called the Kale. When they died, we modified ourselves to prevent future bonds. We thought it would spare us pain. It only brought you slow death, the Alara said gently. Bonded peoples thrive through connection. Without it, you stagnate. We've watched your empire decline for thousands of years, knowing why but unable to help. Revealing ourselves would have brought war. But our bond changed that, Hana said, understanding dawning. Yes. Your bond proves that the genetic suppression can be overcome, that soul bonds can form between species who weren't originally compatible, that the gift isn't lost, just sleeping. The Alara's thoughts filled with hope. You are the first naturally bonded pair from core world species in 10,000 years. You are proof that the galaxy can heal. Dae-sung felt the weight of those words through the bond. They weren't just 2 people who had fallen in love. They were a symbol, a catalyst, the first crack in a wall that had divided the galaxy for millennia. What do you want from us? He asked. Nothing. We came to offer you something. The Alara gestured and information flooded their minds. Knowledge. The understanding of bonds that was lost. How to control them, strengthen them, teach others to form them. We've preserved this knowledge for 10,000 years, waiting for the day when it would be needed again. Through the bond, Dae-sung and Hana absorbed information that would take years to fully understand. Techniques for deepening bonds, ways to help others who showed bonding potential, methods for creating societies where bonded and unbonded could coexist peacefully. We also came to invite you, the Alara said. Join us at the edge of space. Meet the other bonded peoples. Learn from those who never forgot how to connect. We can't leave, Hana said immediately. Our peoples need us here. We're the bridge between human and Velkari. We know. We don't ask you to come permanently. But visit us. Bring others who want to learn. The galaxy is waking up again and it will need teachers. Over the following months, everything changed. Dae-sung and Hana traveled between human and Velkari worlds, speaking about their bond, teaching what the Alara had shared. The reception was mixed. Some embraced the idea of soul bonds while others rejected it violently. But slowly, change happened. 3 more human Velkari bonds formed spontaneously, then 5 more, then dozens. Each time, Dae-sung and Hana were there to help the newly bonded pairs understand and control their connection. They discovered that bonds could form between any 2 individuals with compatible souls. Regardless of species, humans bonded with Velkari. Velkari bonded with other Velkari for the first time in millennia. Even a few humans bonded with members of the Alara who visited the core worlds. Not everyone could bond. The ability required something indefinable, compatibility at a soul level that transcended biology or culture. But those who did bond became living bridges between their peoples. Emperor Jaewon established the Council of Bonds, a governing body that protected bonded pairs and promoted understanding between species. Daesung and Hana were appointed as co-chairs, the first of their kind. "Never thought I'd be in politics," Daesung said one evening as they reviewed proposals in their shared quarters. "Never thought I'd marry a human," Hana replied. Through the bond he felt her amusement and love. Life is surprising. Their wedding had been 6 months after their recovery. A ceremony that blended human and Velkari traditions, attended by thousands and broadcast to billions. Daesung's mother had cried. Emperor Jaewon had smiled. Taeyang had stood as an honor guard, his earlier hatred transformed to protective affection for his sister and her chosen partner. Now, a year after their bond had formed, they prepared for their journey to the edge of space. The Alara had invited them to visit the sanctuary worlds where the bonded peoples lived. They would bring a delegation, humans, Velkari, and members of other species who wanted to learn. Their ship was called the Soul's Promise, a vessel built by both human and Velkari engineers working together for the first time. It represented everything their bond had made possible: cooperation, unity, shared purpose. The night before departure, they stood in the observation deck looking at the stars. Their bond glowed softly between them, purple light that had become as natural as breathing. "Are you afraid?" Hana asked. Daesung considered. Through the bond he felt her own mixture of excitement and trepidation. "No, whatever we find out there, we'll face it together." "Together," Hana echoed. Her crystalline hand found his human one, and their fingers interlaced perfectly. "I never imagined my life would become this. Princess, wife, ambassador, explorer, you changed everything. You changed me too. Before you, I was just going through the motions, trying to make up for failing my sister by saving everyone else, but I was hollow inside. And now I'm whole. We're whole." He pulled her close, feeling the bond sing with contentment. "I gave you my blood thinking I was saving your life, but you saved mine too." The Soul's Promise departed the next morning with a crew of 50. Scientists, diplomats, military personnel, all either bonded or willing to learn about bonds. Daesung and Hana stood on the bridge as their ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, heading toward the galaxy's edge. They spent weeks traveling, stopping at various systems along the way. They discovered ruins of ancient civilizations that had once been bonded. They found evidence of the war that had destroyed them, entire planets scarred by weapons designed to sever bonds violently. "This is what happened to the Kale," Lady Young-hee said as they studied one such ruin. "They weren't killed by disease. They were targeted because of their bonds with your people. Someone wanted to eliminate bonding from the galaxy." "Who?" Hana asked. "I don't know. But they succeeded in making an entire galaxy forget that connection is strength, not weakness." When they finally reached the sanctuary worlds, they found paradise. 12 species living in harmony, all capable of bonds, all understanding that unity made them stronger. Cities where architecture from different cultures blended seamlessly.